Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. This time we will have another sketchbook tour, and this one spans from March to May 2021 and it's all about spring. And I'm often focused on sketching birds during the winter months, and I enjoyed sketching the first soft green and the different spring flowers this year. We had a slow start this year in spring with very cool temperatures and snow in late April, although this is not totally out of the norm. But it was still a bit of a peculiar weather, and I'm definitely looking forward to the warmer days now. So currently I'm using up sketchbooks with paper I don't really like. And this shows a little bit in my sketching style and the techniques that I use. So in the first half of the pictures in this dark sketchbook here, you will see a very loose and rough style because the paper that I use here has a very prominent grain. I'm not sure if you can see this on camera. This is a wood pulp paper. It's Fabriano di Segno, I believe. It takes watercolor fairly well, but it's not really suited for very fine and delicate details. And I did more pencil and ink work on these pages than I usually do. So let's start with this page. This is from early March with two different kinds of wagtails. A white wagtail and then a mountain wagtail. And then there are some spring flowers like this, I believe it's called a snowflake in English. And other things, you can see the trees didn't have any leaves on them, then there was a squirrel. So these are the kind of pages that I really like, all kinds of different things going on and yeah, different subjects to explore. These are more like quick studies, so these are pencil sketches of different birds. On the left you can see buzzards that were circling over the city here, and I've indicated this circling motion with different arrows so as to show in which direction the buzzards flew. And then I do have on the right a page of studies from a starling, and I really like these particular birds, these metallic sounds that they make, and also the metallic looking feathers. They are really interesting birds, I think. Then more bird studies. On the left you can see greenfinches, and on the right song thrush in ink. And yeah, so I quickly found out that I like working in ink a little bit better in this on this kind of paper because you can have more precise lines with it, and I added a little bit of watercolor around it. Then we have this butterfly study in ink with a little bit of gouache and colored pencil. So this study I originally did for my new composition class, a sketchbook composition class, but it didn't end up in the course. I made another different version for this. So these peacock butterflies are quite common here, and sometimes you can see them really early in the year when they emerge from spending the winter in buildings. So they're quite a common sight. And you can see my sketchbook starts to fall apart because I took a few pages out of it because I couldn't bear the paper anymore. So this sometimes happens. It's really, I mean, it's cool if you want to do something like this. It looks a little bit, well, yeah, as I said, I took some pages out. On the right here are three quick composition studies. So these are landscapes that are sort of these snapshots that I took in the same place, just looking around a little bit. I originally had planned to use this too in the sketchbook composition class, but I ended up not using them, but they were really fun to do. Then here on this page we have a mix of spring plants with this wild arum, this is called Dog's Mercury, and a classic snowdrop, together with a few birds and a landscape. So you can see here the silhouette of a red kite, then a raven and a great tit. And this is a page that I did after a very enjoyable day of hiking outside. We hiked around this area, which, if you want to believe the sign that said this is the middle of Germany, I have no idea if this is meant geographically or otherwise, but yeah, it still was a very nice landscape. And this particular page is also shown as a step-by-step in my sketchbook composition class. And here are more outtakes from that particular class. So a white wagtail with a little bit of color sprinkled in, and the same European peacock in ink this time. And that's all for this sketchbook. Let's see. So the next sketchbook that I started features the rests of a hot pressed cellulose paper, so wood pulp paper, that I wanted to finally use up. And it's not really that great for watercolor. So I tried a bunch of different techniques. I tried with watercolor in the beginning, and then ink, marker, and very dry watercolor application. And at some point I sort of gave up and mostly used colored pencil on the paper, which actually works great, I found out. And you can see how I sort of struggled on the first few pages with this paper. So I don't really like how I rendered these particular flowers, although I like the entirety of the page. So these are different spring flowers that you can find in the forests here, together with a little bit of text, a little bit of explanation. Here's the next bunch of spring flowers, different flowers, birds, and then the insects that were very prominent on this day. So even more flowers. This was an interesting find. These were different species of Veronica. It's really amazing how different these small blue flowers can look like. And we also have a skylark that I saw in the field that day. Then the silhouette of a kestrel, and I found a few different bees. So I never paid particular attention on the different kind of wild bees, so the bees that are not honeybees, but it's really interesting to find out more about them and to learn about them. And hopefully this won't be in vain, because I know that these animals are really on the decline. They are really a lot of them are endangered around here. On this page, I really got fed up with the way the paper reacted to watercolor, and I used markers and ink for most of the elements. So markers often bleed through on the other side on the page, and that's why I rarely use them a lot in sketchbooks. But I tried to do it on this page, and I sort of like it. So it has a little bit more contrast, and it has sharper edges than the other pages. And this building is the rest of a water castle from the 13th century, and it has a very particular style. It's called Northern or German Renaissance architecture, and today it's used for horse breeding. The entire building, the entire complex is used for horse breeding. Very beautiful creatures around there, and also different kinds of birds that flew around the premises and were really lovely to observe. On another day, we took a stroll through this little town with a lot of half-timbered buildings that were really nicely renovated and painted. And in that town, people also put up signs with historical photos showing how the buildings looked like and what they were used for 100 years ago. And this was really interesting, and I really wish that more small towns or cities would do this kind of stuff, because you can learn a lot about the history of these places that way. And we also met a stork and a white-throated dipper, which is really lovely because I don't see these particular birds so often. And here we have more studies of the dipper. And then I also encountered some geese, some mergansers with their young, really cute little birds. And then it was time for a page of sparrow studies for me. So I really like the effect that the colored pencil has when you use it for studies on this paper. So I love these little chirping guys, and I also really rather like the effect that the colored pencil produces on the paper. And with that, I found the way that I have to use up this paper with colored pencils. And the last page for now are these two botanical studies, again with colored pencil. And it's not yet finished, so I will work a little bit more on these aspects of the page here, but this here is a very common plant, the dandelion. I'm sure you have noticed. And the other is a kind of a buttercup or a sparewort, which is also quite common around here. And that's all for now in this sketchbook. So I have a little bit of work left to do, and I will use the rest of this paper with my colored pencil, now that I've discovered that you can really get quite the nice effects out of it. So I hope you liked this sketchbook tour. I definitely enjoyed seeing nature come back to life in its many shapes and colors after the winter. So it was really a nice time to be outside and to study nature. And I'm also looking forward to the summertime. So that's it for this video. I hope you liked it. As always, feel free to comment, like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you very soon. Bye!